guys, welcome back. Today I'm here to talk about one of the most anticipated fall sci-fi releases of 2019, Gideon the Ninth by Tamsyn Muir. I was lucky enough to grab an arc of this book at Book Expo this year from the publisher, and I recently finished reading it, and I want to talk about it because there's been a lot of buzz about this book. I originally had it on my radar because one of my friends, Melanie from Bethany, absolutely loved this. This is her favorite book of the year. Some of the reviews have been a little bit more mixed, and so I wanted to give you guys my take on this book. I should say right off the bat, I personally absolutely loved Gideon the Ninth. I think this is probably going to be one of my favorite books of the year as well, and I'm really happy I picked it up. However, it is a very particular kind of book that I don't think is going to work for everyone. So we're going to talk a little bit about what this is, why I loved it so much, who I think would like it, and who might not be as much of a fan. I think that fans of Nevernight by J. Kristoff will probably love Gideon the Ninth. It is quite a different book, quite a different story, but the quirky sense of humor and some of the sensibilities of this remind me a lot of the Nevernight series by J. Kristoff. I do think that some people who maybe weren't so into Nevernight might also really enjoy Gideon the Ninth because there are plenty of differences, but I think for sure anybody who loves Nevernight will probably also love Gideon. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that that's probably true. The way that I've heard this pitched is lesbian necromancers in space, which yes is true, but honestly I'm not sure that that's actually the best way to pitch this book because I think it maybe sets you up for expectations that are not what it is. I would actually call Gideon the Ninth a quirky sci-fi mystery with really dark humor and lots of necromancy. Yes, absolutely. But one thing about this is if you're gonna like this book, you have to like Gideon as a character. The main character in this book is Gideon. Gideon is a really interesting character and one that I think you will either love or maybe not get. I loved Gideon. I think Gideon is hilarious and is probably one of my favorite characters in a book that I have read this year. She's got this very kind of dry, tongue-in-cheek sense of humor, is very quirky and sort of devil-may-care, but also because she comes from basically a house of death and looks like this, she terrifies people. I loved her. I think she's fantastic. She's one of those sort of like rough exterior, fuzzy teddy bear interior, but funny types of characters. I don't know. She's got this really like quirky, weird sense of humor that can be pretty dark and sometimes a little bit juvenile. I loved it. I think that she is such a great character. She is in fact a lesbian, and I do like the way that the queerness in this book is handled. It's kind of casually put in here. The way that this reads to me is very similar to the way that you would read something in this genre from the perspective of a male kind of action-adventure hero who has these sort of random side romantic interests or like notices women that he thinks are attractive. You have very similar approach to it with Gideon. It's pretty casual, it's not the main point of the plot, and it's also not super explicit, but it's there throughout the book, and it's funny oftentimes or touching at other times, and I really enjoyed it. And earlier you might have noticed that I did call this a mystery, and it is. This is a sci-fi mystery, and I haven't heard anybody else talking about this, but this book actually turns into kind of an isolated closed circle mystery set in a well-developed sci-fi universe. So for people who are into that, you might really enjoy this. Also, the world building is amazing and so inventive. It's definitely dark, it's weird, you learn a little bit as you go. You are kind of thrown into it, although you're given some information in the front of the book, and so I would honestly recommend, I know some people don't do this, but reading some of this. So you do have a list of dramatis persona, so people in the different, divided by house, because there's 9 houses, hence Gideon the Ninth is from the 9th house, and this is probably worth looking over when you start it, and then as you get further into the book you can flip back to it if you get confused about how many characters there are, and it also kind of gives you some ideas of what the houses are. So I would say take a quick look at this before you read the book, and then feel free to flip back to it to familiarize yourself with it, because there are a lot of characters. There is kind of a lot to follow, but I think if you can do it, it is well worth it. Other things to note about this It is quite dark, it is quite violent. There's also a good bit of body horror and like gross out sort of stuff that happens. Necromancy is a key part of this. There's a lot of necromancers in this that are sort of competing for things, and I don't want to talk too much about what that competition is about because I don't want to spoil anything, but there's definitely a lot of blood and gore and body horror and death and bones. I really, really loved this. Hopefully that gives you a little bit more of a sense of what this book is about, whether or not you might enjoy it. And I would actually recommend, because I do think it's a specific writing style that's not going to work for everyone, you can download the first few chapters in ebook format for free if you go to Amazon, on Amazon for Kindle or on Barnes & Noble for Kobo, and I would actually recommend doing that. Download the first few chapters, get a sense of the style and of Gideon as a character, and see if it's something that works for you, and if it is, definitely go out and pre-order it. It's coming out in September. I am absolutely going to be purchasing a beautiful finished copy with the black sprayed edges that I'm very excited about. I didn't want to pre-order it until I had actually read it to make sure I liked it, because I know there have been some mixed reviews, but I'm really a fan. This really worked for me. I thought that the characterization was really strong and interesting. There are a lot of kind of morally gray characters and complicated characters in this book, which I always love. The world building is really well done and well thought out and interesting. The plot keeps you wanting to know what's going on and what happens because it is kind of a mystery plot, and I really enjoyed the sense of humor as well. Like, really, really worked for me, and I just love Gideon as a character. She's amazing. She's kind of, you know, intimidating, scary on the outside, but this like soft, warm, fuzzy teddy bear on the inside, and I just loved it. I love the world. I'm really excited to read more in the series, and I think that this is one of the most impressive debuts that I've read. I think Tamsyn is probably going to end up with a cult following, much like Jay Kristoff has, and then there's going to be people who absolutely hate it because it just doesn't work for them, and I think that's fine. So I think be aware of your own reading tastes and think about whether this is something that sounds appealing to you. If it does, go check it out. Download the free first few chapters in ebook format and get a sense of how you feel about this. So there you go. That is my full spoiler-free review of Gideon the Ninth by Tamsyn Muir. Talk to me in the comments down below and let me know, is this something that you guys are going to be picking up in September, or is it something that you think you're going to pass on after hearing my thoughts on it? For your question of the day, let me know how you feel about genre blends. I personally tend to love genre blends. Like this, for example, feels like a sci-fi fantasy mystery blend, and I am all about it, especially when it's done well, but some people feel like things should be more separate. So talk to me down below. Let me know if you like genre blends, and if so, what's a favorite example that you can think of a book you really loved that did something interesting like that? If you guys liked this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.